Picture this. You're standing in a frozen forest 40,000 years ago. No gun, no knife, just a sharpened stick and a fire that's dying. And in the darkness, you hear breathing that isn't yours. Eyes, dozens of them, watching you from the tree line. Wolves, the most efficient killing machines on the continent. Faster than you, stronger than you. And they hunt in teams, which means you don't just have to outrun one of them, you have to outrun a strategy. Here's the strange part. This should be the end of the story. Humans and wolves competing for the same prey in the same forest during the harshest ice age in human history. One of these species should have wiped out the other. But that's not what happened. Instead, something happened that scientists still can't fully explain. We didn't destroy the wolves. We became something else, together. And the strangest part, what happened next may have shaped the entire trajectory of human civilization. Let's start with the mystery. Every large predator that competed with early humans for food eventually became an enemy. Cave lions, saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas. We hunted them, we feared them. Eventually, most of them went extinct. Except wolves. Wolves didn't disappear. They moved into our camps. Now think about how insane that actually is. You're a starving Ice Age human. Food is scarce. Every calorie matters, and the animal you should be treating as a threat, you let it sit by your fire? That would be true. Except archaeologists found something that changes everything. In Belgium, researchers uncovered a skull, 32,000 years old. Wolf-shaped, but not quite a wolf. Shorter snout, wider skull, different bite pattern. This wasn't a wild wolf. This was something being shaped by human hands, generations before we ever built a single permanent home. But here's where it gets strange. We didn't have farms yet. We didn't have written language. We hadn't even invented the wheel. And yet, somehow, we had already started turning the deadliest predator on the continent into a partner. Why? The obvious answer is protection, companionship, warmth, and sure, that's part of it. But that's only part of the story. The real reason is much deeper. To understand it, you have to understand something uncomfortable about early humans. We were not the strongest hunters on the savannah. We didn't have claws, we didn't have fangs, we didn't even have particularly good night vision. What we had was endurance and pattern recognition. We could think several steps ahead. Wolves had something we didn't: speed, smell, and most importantly, a nose capable of detecting prey from over a mile away. Individually, we were weak. Together, we were terrifying. Here's a comparison that sounds unbelievable, but is scientifically documented. A study on modern hunting efficiency found that a lone human hunter succeeds in tracking prey a fraction of the time. Add a trained dog, and success rates jump dramatically, in some cases more than doubling. Now imagine that discovery, 40,000 years ago, without any of the science to explain why it worked. Someone just noticed. And this is where things get weird, because taming a wolf isn't like taming a rabbit or a sheep. Wolves are apex predators with the intelligence to challenge human dominance. This wasn't a gentle process. This was risky, dangerous, possibly deadly. So the real question isn't why did we tame wolves? The real question is, how do you convince the most dangerous predator around to trust you? And the answer to that changes how we think about human evolution itself. Researchers believe it likely wasn't humans who approached wolves first. It may have been the other way around. Some wolves, less aggressive, more curious, may have started following human hunting groups, not to attack them, to scavenge their leftovers. Every time humans killed large prey, they left behind bones, organs, scraps, free meals. For a wolf, that's easier than hunting. But here's the twist. The wolves who were too aggressive got killed or driven off. The wolves who were too skittish never got close enough to benefit. Only the ones in between survived. The bold but non-threatening ones. Generation after generation, without anyone planning it, evolution filtered for one specific trait: friendliness. This is where things get almost unbelievable. In the 1950s, a Russian scientist named Dmitry Belyaev ran an experiment. He bred silver foxes, selecting only for one trait: tameness. Nothing else? Within a few generations, something bizarre happened. The foxes' ears started flopping. Their tails began to curl. Their fur changed color. They started acting almost like dogs, wagging tails, seeking attention, even barking. By selecting for friendliness alone, the animals physically transformed. This is called domestication syndrome, and it may be exactly what happened to wolves thousands of years earlier, completely by accident. We weren't just creating a new species, we were creating the first recorded proof that kindness itself can reshape biology. But this is where the story stops being about wolves and starts being about us. Because if friendliness could reshape a wolf's brain and body, What did living beside wolves do to us? Here's where the stakes escalate. Living with wolves didn't just give humans a hunting partner, it changed our entire lifestyle. Wolf dogs could detect predators approaching camp long before humans could see or smell them. This meant humans could finally sleep without one person staying awake all night on guard duty. Think about what that actually means. For the first time in human history, we could rest deeply, recover, dream longer. Some researchers believe this shift may have contributed to increased cognitive development, because uninterrupted sleep is essential for memory consolidation and brain function. In other words, the wolf might have helped build the human mind. But there's another layer to this. Wolves didn't just protect camps, they extended human hunting range dramatically. With a dog's nose and speed combined with human strategy and tools, groups could track larger prey over longer distances with higher success rates. More successful hunts meant more food meant population growth meant larger, more complex social groups. And larger social groups are the foundation of everything that came next: language, culture, cooperation on a massive scale. Some anthropologists argue that the wolf-human partnership may have given Homo sapiens a critical edge over other early human species, including Neanderthals, who show far less evidence of animal domestication. Let that sink in for a second. It's possible that one of the reasons we're here today, and Neanderthals or not, comes down to something as simple as a wolf choosing to follow us home. But we're still not at the deepest layer of this mystery. Because taming wolves didn't just change our biology and our survival, it may have changed our psychology. Here's the mind-blowing part. Wolves are deeply social animals. They live in cooperative family units. They share food. They protect the weak. They read each other's emotions through subtle body language. When early humans began living closely with wolves, they weren't just adopting a hunting tool. They were living beside a mirror, a creature that modeled loyalty, cooperation, emotional bonding across species. Some researchers believe this relationship may have reinforced our own capacity for empathy, because humans who bonded successfully with wolves needed to interpret nonverbal emotional cues, a skill that likely strengthened social intelligence across the group. In other words, learning to understand another species may have made us better at understanding each other. And that changes everything, because dogs today, descendants of those very first wolves, still carry this ancient bond. Studies show that when humans and dogs make eye contact, both species release oxytocin, the same hormone responsible for bonding between a parent and child. Let that land for a moment. The same chemical reaction that connects a mother to her newborn exists between you and your dog. That's not a coincidence. That's 40,000 years of shared evolution. So here's the final question. Did humans tame wolves, or did we grow up together, shaped by each other, across thousands of years of survival, until we became two species that couldn't imagine existing without the other? Every time your dog rests its head on your lap, every time it senses your sadness before you say a word, every time it waits by the door for you to come home, that's not just an animal being loyal. That's an ancient story still playing out right now in your living room. Long before we built cities, wrote language, or discovered agriculture, we made a decision that shaped the entire future of our species. We chose connection over conquest. And somewhere in a frozen forest 40,000 years ago, a wolf made the same choice. Maybe that's the real lesson buried in this story. Civilization wasn't built by the strongest. It was built by those willing to trust something wild and turn it into family. And maybe, in some strange way, we're still doing that, just with a leash instead of a fire.